So there's a chance that you likely don't know what it is you truly want. And maybe your wants are really just mimicking the desires of others. And that's possibly the biggest obstacle between you and aligning yourself with the life that you really value. This is the Hall Street Index. My name is D. Hall. I'm an accredited financial counselor. And when I work with clients, you know, I work in personal finance, right? And I'd like to say there's a major emphasis on personal more than finance. I'd say the split is about 80-20, 80% personal, 20% finance. And so when I say 20% finance, it's when you understand the financial principles, what to look for, the numbers of it all, then it could kind of be rinse and repeat after that, and you leverage time for compounding gains uh, over time. But when I talk about the personal, that's where it gets a little bit more complicated because now we're really talking about you versus you, your level of self-awareness, understanding and mastering your environments, your triggers, how you respond to unexpected circumstances, how you deal with loss. The list goes on and on and on. That directly impacts your finances because we can create the fancy spreadsheets, we can create charts, we can crunch the numbers all day. But when it comes to creating a plan that you could stick with over a sustained amount of time, that's more the personal part. What are your motivations? What allows you to maintain behaviors over a sustained amount of time? And so when I work with clients, that's a big part of our conversation. Getting clear on what they want is also a massive part of the conversation as well. Because, I recently got hip to this idea called mimetic desire. And that is when it's identifying it's not necessarily you think you want a thing, but really what you want is just mimicking the desires of others. In other words, our desires tend to be social before they become personal. We want what someone else has or wants. There's so many examples that can support this. So when we try to think about ideas of success, happiness, for example, everyone's definition of success and happiness is going to be different. So then I'd flip it and say, what does your version of success and happiness look like? And you might be able to, spit out an answer pretty quickly. But then I would encourage you to get to a deeper level of what it is that you're seeking, because you might see examples of success and happiness that you like in someone else's life. But maybe if you were to actually experience that, it would not bring that much success and happiness as you expected or even hoped for. So there are those surface level desires, but then it gets a bit deeper after that. For example, you know, we could talk about the appearance of success and happiness versus, you know, what it is that you're really trying to feel at the core. Maybe at the core, the deeper level, the deeper desire, you might want respect, belonging, you know, love, whatever the case. But how that may manifest in your life will probably look different than how it manifests in someone else's life. So you think the promotion or, the partner or whatever the case might bring these things to you, moving to another state or whatever, maybe. But, you know, in the reality, it really starts at a much deeper level, and how you can be as self-sustaining for those things, how you can cultivate a level of respect, belonging, love, even for yourself, And then you're more likely to provide that for others, share that, exchange, so on and so forth. But what I'm really getting to is, it might look like on the surface a specific job title. It might look like on the surface a specific person. It might look like on the surface a specific, car or city or whatever. But if we get a little bit deeper with it, then we focus more on how it feels rather than what it looks like. It becomes more of an internal experience rather than being dependent on external manifestations. And this absolutely directs your finances, because once you take the time to get a bit clearer on what it is that you want, then you're not getting so caught up in the appearance of what that looks like. And so it allows you to become more decisive on how you align yourself with the things that you actually want. And to talk about the appearance of things, this makes me think of this example. I heard this story, and the overall idea, I might butcher it a little bit, but the point is still there. There's this person, and let's say this guy is drowning, and he's praying for God to help him. So a helicopter comes by, offers to rescue him. The guy says, "Oh no, God's going to help me." A boat comes by, offers to rescue him. The guy says, "Oh no, God's going to help me." Ultimately, the guy drowns. But the idea is there were opportunities passing by for him to receive that help, to be rescued. But he wanted it to appear a certain way. And maybe he didn't even know what it would have looked like. Maybe he thought he was going to walk on water back to shore. Maybe he thought he was going to ascend up into the clouds. But things were being sent for him to be saved, but it didn't appear how he wanted it to look. So his deeper desire was safety, and the appearance of safety it wasn't exactly defined. So when these opportunities started passing by, he wasn't able to receive them. So, we're talking about desires, knowing what you want. That way you can become more decisive rather than just being pulled into mimicking other people's versions of happiness and success, but actually creating one for yourself. Becoming less distracted by how other people are experiencing happiness and success, and start deciding on how to cultivate happiness and success around the things you deeply desire. This is the personal part of personal finance, because then we can start to build the budgets, create the savings plan, create the investment plan. But what's going to keep you sticking to those things, and what are you saving money for? What are you investing for? Right? Because you can accumulate and accumulate money and still not have any aim. Then what's the point of it? Here at the Hall Street Index, we don't prioritize money. We just view it as a tool to living a more fulfilling, meaningful, enjoyable life. And so with that being said, we get really clear on what it is that we care about, and we lean into those things rather than just accumulating for the sake of accumulating, letting life pass you by. To bring it all back together, becoming more aware of what it is that you deeply want, that way you can start deciding around how to align yourself with the life that you really want versus just being constantly distracted, pulled in so many different angles, and getting unclear, undecisive, and valuable time is just passing by. If you found this valuable, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe. I'm D. Hall, and this is the Hall Street Index. See you next time.